Now, if you're watching this video, there's something about you that desires to leave your 9 to 5 in the new year. And my job in this video is to empower you with the information and the practical steps in order to make this a successful reality for you. We're going to jump right in, and I'm excited because in the current environment that we are in right now, with layoffs, big, gigantic companies, cutting expenses and things of that nature, and the fact that we're coming out of a pandemic where most individuals have decided, they don't want to return back to the office environment. They spent 2 years working from home, and they realized how much opportunity is out there for those that want to become entrepreneurs. And I'm going to give you a very, very practical framework, but it really doesn't matter what the steps are if you don't execute on them. So high level, we are going to keep things ultra basic. So a lot of the information I'm going to share today is practical, but I'm going to give you a lot of hacks and shortcuts that you can implement to make your leap into full-time entrepreneurship as painless as possible. There's going to be a little bit of pain, but my goal is to make it as painless as possible. So we're going to start with step one. And step one is very, very simple. Why do you want to go into full-time entrepreneurship? If you are in the real estate field like I am, you realize that, at some point, in order for your business to scale, you're going to have to do this semi-full-time. And by semi-full-time, what I mean is about 80 to 90% of your working ability or your working hours needs to be dedicated to real estate. But you could be going into some other type of field. This podcast is not simply meant for real estate agents, even though this is a real estate podcast. But anything that we talk through today, just fill in the blank with whatever field you want to go into. As long as you are wanting to leap full-time into entrepreneurship, this applies to any field. But you have to ask yourself, what is your why? And as simple as that might sound, a lot of individuals do not ask themselves that tough question. It's an easy time in a certain sense to become an entrepreneur because a lot of the steps and information is out there right now. You take, for example, a pretty popular podcast called Earn Your Leisure. They give you a lot of free game on how you can go full-time into several different fields. If you follow a show like Bigger Pockets, if you want to go full-time into real estate investing, for example, there's steps laid out on Bigger Pockets on how you can go full-time into real estate investing. But I personally don't see a lot of steps that are practical for real estate agents specifically. So my hope and my prayer is that this gives you the information and the knowledge that you need to ask yourself why, and to be able to comfortably answer that question. Are you finding that your business is growing at a fast rate, and having a 9 to 5, frankly, is tying you up from really closing a lot more business as a real estate agent? That might be the why that you need in order to go full-time into real estate. If your job is talking about, budget cuts and layoffs, well, it might be a good idea to be proactive versus reactive and look into positioning yourself to go full-time into real estate or entrepreneurship. For me, I always try to see the writings on the wall and operate accordingly. And so my why personally is that I just like to do a lot. I like to do a lot, but I try to make sure all of the things that I do have some synchronicity to it. That way, it's really kind of plug and play, but the systems really can apply to whatever business endeavors I have going on. Because as a family here, we have several businesses that we run. We run an online business. We run a real estate business. I also run businesses in the financial space. And I couldn't do that, honestly, if there was not synchronicity to all of the things that we do as entrepreneurs. But if that is the case for you, and or your company is talking about making budget cuts and layoffs and things of that nature, or if there's even whispers of it, usually usually someone gets to talking and they say it's a rumor, but usually rumors have some level of truth connected to it. So do your due diligence as best as possible. Lean on, I'm a Christian, so I say lean on your discernment and what you feel that God is telling you, and let that be the why that drives every single day that you wake up towards moving you closer and closer and closer to making that leap. Are you a real estate agent looking to jumpstart your career? Join our online agent network and gain access to the support and resources you need to succeed. One of the most effective ways to attract clients in this industry is through social media. And I can tell you, in my entire time as a real estate professional, I have not knocked on one door, and yet I've still generated several $1 million worth of sales per year. And our team is here to help you do the same thing. Click the link in today's show notes today or visit IamTheTribe.com to learn more about this amazing opportunity. Now back to the show. You definitely don't want to go full-time into entrepreneurship without making sure that you have a support system in place. And by support system, if you are married, I'm talking to my married folks, you want to make sure that your spouse or your significant other is in complete agreement with what you do, especially if they are not full-time entrepreneurs and they are working in the 9-to-5 space. If you are successful in your entrepreneurial endeavors, well, that's going to benefit the whole household. But if you are unsuccessful in your entrepreneurial endeavors, or you decide to go into it without making sure that your significant other is on board, well, that's going to create a very, very big level of stress for not just you, because you're going to feel like, man, I made this decision. I didn't involve my significant other. The bills are still piling up in our household. So now my significant other has to work twice as hard as they're working for them and myself. You got to realize that it's super, super important to sell them first on why your entrepreneurial endeavor is going to benefit the household, but also provide them the courtesy of knowing that you may want to go a little bit faster, but you want to make sure that they are fully on board with what you do, because you are going to need that person. He or she, you're going to need that person's support, especially when things get a little bit rough and rocky, which it will in entrepreneurship. Trust and believe, going full-time into being a real estate agent, for example, is not as easy as it looks. Your first client or your first customer in this entrepreneurial experience is going to be your significant other. So you got to sell them first before you can sell your first client a house or whatever the case is, because they are going to be the support system that's going to float you collectively as a household through the rocky times in entrepreneurship. So now let's talk about setting up a runway for going full-time and leaving your 9-to-5. Do me a solid, especially if you're watching this after January 1st, do me a solid, take your W-2 from your previous year, look at it right now. That W-2 is going to show you what you made gross for the year in question. Now, if you don't have at least 50% of that amount that you made for the previous year sitting in a checking account or savings account or investment somewhere, you got to cut your expenses as low as possible if you are really serious about going full-time into entrepreneurship. That paycheck is consistent and it's guaranteed to you either every 2 weeks, every week, or every month, whatever the case is. But when you go full-time into entrepreneurship, you got to go kill your food. And unfortunately, but fortunately, you can write an unlimited check to yourself depending on how hard you work, and not only how hard, but how efficiently you work in your entrepreneurial endeavors. Because if you don't go kill your food, you don't eat. We got to literally look at this thing like lions in the jungle in the safari. They got to go every single day to go and kill their food, or else they are going to starve. And then if you got cubs, or the lions have cubs, but in your case, if you have children or dependents, you really don't have no excuses. You really got to go hard, because you are now saying that it is totally up to me whether we eat or starve. And for me, that's what gets me up every single day, is knowing, hey, if I don't go get it, my household is going to suffer. And so you have to really, really be honest with yourself and cut your expenses to the minimum. And I'm talking about getting rid of the multiple streaming services for video, getting rid of the multiple music services. Do you really honestly need Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music? Probably not. You might need to go back to old school Pandora, if that's still around, and just rock out with as close to free as possible. Maybe you and a couple of family members can get a family account for your streaming music. Now, instead of you just paying, the monthly fee by yourself, you're splitting that expense up with yourself or a couple buddies or whatever the case is, and still getting that benefit. But you gotta cut your expenses to the minimum, because it's honestly not how much you make in business, but how much you keep that determines if you're profitable. As the more you're saving, essentially that's more money that's sitting in your checking account. So you've got to get more intentional about tracking your expenses using, an app like mint.com or some budget app that's out there that's free, that links up to your bank account, that shows you how much money you're spending on food, how much money you're spending on entertainment, how much money you're spending on subscriptions, and really get serious about getting rid of the fluff in the new year. One thing I learned for sure was during the pandemic, it was a lot of stuff that we were paying for that we honestly did not need. And it wasn't until we were stuck in the house together, my wife and I, that we really sat down and started looking at all of our expenses in its totality. What were some of the things that we were paying for? Did we really need Amazon Prime? Probably not. We probably shouldn't be ordering anything from Amazon unless it's $25 or more, which is how you get free shipping anyway with Amazon. Once we really started looking at how much we're saving versus how much we are spending, it was like, okay, we got to get real with ourselves, especially because during the pandemic, we didn't know what was going to happen in our businesses. And so we really had to cut as much as possible in order to last however long the pandemic was going to last, which we didn't know at that time. But the next pandemic that's going to happen, it's not an if, but when it happens, you want to make sure that your household is living as lean as possible, even when things are going great in your business or even at the job. Now, to that point, as far as giving yourself a runway, once you start saving, you definitely want to look for more opportunities to bring more income into the household. If you are an hourly employee, for example, and your job just won't give you more hours or allow you to work overtime, then you got to pick up a side hustle or two. If you are a salaried employee and the hours you work are you just get paid whatever you get paid for the hours that you work, you also need to pick up a side hustle and look for multiple ways that you can continue to bring more dollars into the household on top of what your normal 9 to 5 is going to pay you. There are side hustle gigs like Uber, DoorDash, Lyft that you can sign up for absolutely free. And if you have a vehicle, even if you don't have a vehicle, if you got a bike in some cities, you can literally pick up one or all of the side hustle gig apps that are out there and use that today to start bringing more money into your household. Let me tell you something. Speaking from personal experience, I was making 6 figures and I still was driving for Uber. You know why? Because I had a goal back in the day, and I literally had a whole YouTube channel dedicated to it called The Bearded Uber Guy. But I literally was making 6 figures, but because my income fluctuated, although I was making 6 figures at the end of the year, I had to fill in the gaps from a cash flow standpoint and pick up multiple side hustles, including driving for Uber and for Lyft, to keep our expenses covered during the times where I did not get a paycheck and it was just me working. Great thing about doing side hustles is that it will really let you know how serious you are about going into entrepreneurship, because you're kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, especially driving for Uber or driving for Lyft. I can't tell you guys how many times we run across Uber drivers, especially when we're traveling, and they do it full time and they make amazing money. And they did it because they said they did not want to work in the 9 to 5 space for whatever reason. And they decided to really lean in on Ubering, door dashing, and things of that nature so that they can control their time. And I can tell you that those individuals, they didn't look stressed. They really felt like they were truly free, because if they wanted to go work out in the mornings, they could do that. And then after working out, go drive a couple hours and make the money that they need, because they got their expenses super low. That was the number one thing that a lot of the Uber drivers and Lyft drivers that I would research and find and talk to, they would do a great job of cutting their expenses. And then all that money that they were making as Lyft and Uber drivers, they were using that towards a certain goal. And many of these individuals, they know that they can't just drive forever. They know that there's no future in that, but they're using the door dashing, they're using the Grubhub, they're using these gig opportunities for what it is, to build their own business. And if you're smart about it, especially from our real estate folks, you could drive for like an Uber and a Lyft, and have your business cards in the back seat, in a little container in the back seat for people to check out. You can have your social media handle taped to the back of your seat that has like a QR code if they're interested in buying or selling. That is you. You have the flexibility in gig work, for example. You have the flexibility, if you wanted to use that platform to market your own entrepreneurial endeavors. I know one thing, if I'm delivering food to somebody, I'm stapling my business card to that food bag before I hand them that food. And like I said, all you need is just one. All you need is one individual to say, hey, you delivered my food and I saw that you also sell real estate. Funny you left me that card because I'm actually interested in buying or selling real estate. Now, not only did you make money delivering the food or dropping the person off as a Uber or Lyft driver, but now you get the opportunity to build business using another platform that's paying you to do the work that you're doing, but they're giving you the ability to market your other entrepreneurial endeavors. Now, I don't know very many 9 to 5s that will allow you to market your other entrepreneurial endeavors if they don't get a piece of what you're doing. Typically, they'll tell you that you cannot do that. So that's the dope thing about side hustle work and things of that nature that will really allow you to get a runway to not only build your business, but also get yourself ready to go full-time into entrepreneurship. So I don't recommend doing it cold turkey. Probably hear a lot of gurus saying, you just got to quit your job. I don't recommend that personally. I believe that you should write the vision and make it plain. Give yourself a timeline, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever the case is, and just make sure that you're intentional about every single day accomplishing one small goal that's going to get you to that larger goal, which is going full time and escaping the 9 to 5. I don't recommend doing it cold turkey because usually if you do it cold turkey, you probably don't have a lot saved, or maybe you do. You probably don't have your expenses cut down as minimal as possible. You haven't vetted the thing that you're trying to go full time into, especially if you quit cold turkey. And honestly, you'll burn a bridge. And I'm not saying that entrepreneurship isn't a viable opportunity, but it definitely has a very high failure rate. I want to say that it's like 90% of individuals that try to go full time into entrepreneurship fail within the first year. Now, if that is true, even if it's 70 to 80% failure rate, well, why would you quit your job cold turkey? And then if that doesn't work out for you as far as going full time into entrepreneurship, now you can't go back to that previous employer and regroup and get in, at least keep income coming in, because you've burnt your bridge by quitting cold turkey. So the way that I would run that play, honestly, is if you've got a lot of, vacation time, for example, use that vacation time to really do your due diligence with the thing that you're trying to go full time into. Do it part time. See how it works using, again, either your after hours before you go to work, after you clock out. If you're working a 9 to 5, we'll use 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. to dedicate to your entrepreneurial business. See how that works. Then use that vacation time that you've accrued over all these many years to do that thing, let's say for a day or for a week, 100% in the thing that you are trying to go full time into, and see how that works for you. You might realize that it's a better strategy to switch from full-time work in a 9 to 5 to part-time work. But now that you've cut down your working hours in the 9 to 5, you've got more time to dedicate to that entrepreneurial endeavor, but you're still getting the best of both worlds. If your job has really good benefits, medical, dental, whatever the case is, you're still leveraging that when you need it, because as a full-time entrepreneur, yes, you can get, the Affordable Care Act. You can get your benefits through the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. I hate that word, but you can still get insurance outside of your employer, outside of your employer plan, but it's just a lot more to it. And so by cutting down your hours, well, that's a great strategy that will kind of get you 1 foot in, 1 foot out into full-time entrepreneurship. But you did it in a smart way. You did it in a clean way, and you did it in a way that you did not burn bridges. Now, when you're ready to make that leap, I would say give that employer, you can take a leave of, okay, so let's say this, let me rewind. when you're ready to make that leap, I would say take a leave of absence from your employer. Most employers offer the ability for you to take what's called a sabbatical, and that's time away from work that will allow you to see if you really truly can be successful at full-time entrepreneurship. Take the sabbatical, take a leave of absence if necessary. If your job is stressing you out and is causing you a high level of stress from a mental health standpoint, well, you really got a good case for taking a leave of absence. But obviously, walk through it, make sure that you're still gonna, make your income or whatever the case is, but go about it in a very smart way. And then when you are truly ready to leave, give them that 2 weeks notice, or if they're asking for a month or whatever the case is, give them, especially if it's not a hostile situation, give them that time to allow as a company, give them that time as a company to fill your position, and then keep that door open. Don't burn that bridge. Don't you dare burn that bridge when you go full time in entrepreneurship, because that company or individuals at that company, they could very well be your next client. So I would suggest that you go about it in a very smart, tactical way. Again, either going from full time to part time, either using vacation hours, either taking a leave of absence or sabbatical, and really, really, really fleshing this thing out, because you can definitely win transitioning into full-time entrepreneurship and leaving the 9 to 5 space, but you just got to do it in a smart and a tactical way. I hope you're getting value from this step-by-step walkthrough. I'm having a lot of fun breaking everything down here, and I'm literally telling you the practical strategies that we personally used in our household that allowed us to now, be full-time entrepreneurs. Be sure to check out our show sponsor, morethanArealestateagent.com. This website is a great place to shop if you're looking for exclusive real estate merch, such as shirts, hoodies, and more. They also have limited edition swag you won't find anywhere else on the web. If you need holiday or closing gift ideas for your current and future clients, then check out their website today, morethanArealestateagent.com. Use the code podcast for 10% off your next purchase. Now back to the show. So just know, as an entrepreneur, guys and girls, that you are going to have to leap and you're going to have to build that plane in midair. You are going to run into issues that you planned for, but you're also going to run into issues that you did not plan for as a full-time entrepreneur. So one of the things that I always say that is the difference between a problem being an emergency or not is how much cash I got saved when that emergency happens. If I have more than enough cash to cover that emergency, it's not truly an emergency, but more of an inconvenience. If I don't have the cash or the credit to cover that emergency, now it really truly is an emergency. And so one of the things and one of the ways that we circumvent, emergencies when they do happen is we have an account built for that. I truly see emergencies as more so liquidity issues. And so if you don't have a savings account that you can even call it your emergency account, to use it as a Dave Ramsey quote. If you don't have that created, and let's say you put like $1,000 or $2,000 in there, and that account is literally dedicated to things that can and will go wrong in your business, do that today. And here's a couple of bank accounts that you're going to want to look into creating as you are transitioning towards a 9 to 5. I would definitely tell you to look into whether you want to be a sole proprietor or an LLC. I'm not a tax attorney, so I'm not going to try to act like a tax attorney on YouTube, but there are benefits from a tax standpoint. Having an LLC, a specific type of LLC called an S Corp, I'll let you do your research on that. When you have an LLC created or a sole proprietorship, and you can get a sole proprietorship probably for like 10, 11 bucks. You just go to your county court office and file for it. Every state is different, but having an LLC along with what's called an EIN number, that will allow you to open up a business bank account, especially if you consider yourself a serious entrepreneur. You're going to want to have multiple bank accounts for multiple reasons. I would say look into, once you create your business bank accounts, you definitely want to have an operating account. You definitely will want to have a tax account. You definitely will want to have an expense account. You definitely will want to have an investing account. And those are all going to serve different purposes that I'll talk about on a future video. But within that, you're going to definitely want to have that emergency account that you're going to use again for when emergencies in your business pop up. And like I said, I would fund it with a couple $1,000s depending on how big your business is at this point. If you are, just making a couple $1,000s a month, then it may not necessarily have to be, $10,000 that you put in that account. But I would say at least $1,000 to $5,000 you'll want to have for emergencies set aside, because they will happen, and you want to make sure that you budget for it. As a full-time entrepreneur, you're going to want to start, and this is probably going to be where we wrap here, but you're definitely going to want to look into tax software or something to track your expenses. The great thing about our tax code here in the United States is that the tax code favors entrepreneurs. So if you have the ability to go out and start a business, Uncle Sam will treat you a lot nicer from a tax standpoint than they treat us as W-2 employees, because a lot of the things that you don't get tax benefits for, you get as a full-time entrepreneur or even a part-time entrepreneur. You have the ability to write off a whole bunch of things that you use for your business, and you'd be surprised what's considered a tax write-off. Now you get to leverage the everyday things that you use that you aren't getting a tax benefit for because you're a W-2 employee. And I won't get political and start talking all that kind of jazz, because that's not the intention of this channel. But what I will say is that I don't want to pay more in taxes than I'm supposed to. I don't want to evade paying taxes, but I definitely don't want to pay 1 penny more than I'm supposed to. And the way that you're able to do that legally is by taking advantage of the tax code and either, again, tracking your own expenses, whether it's your mileage, if you're driving around the city, or certain costs that you use to run your business. You got to do that today. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, again, in the spirit of building a real business, it may be worth it to hire a CPA and let them do all that for you and help guide you in that process. This is a business. You got to take it seriously. And part of building a lasting business that allows you to take your family to places you've never taken it before is by having the right people and systems in place that will allow that business to really grow and flourish. And come tax time, you're Gucci because you have paid your fair share of taxes. But your goal is to work with someone that's a strategist that helps keep your taxes as low as humanly possible. So that's it, guys. That's the game plan that we follow here in our household. And I would suggest anybody that has the desire to go full-time into entrepreneurship, just to recap here, you got to ask yourself why. You got to really get tough and real with yourself to find out why exactly you want to go full-time into entrepreneurship. You also got to make sure that you have the support. And this probably is the most important key, but you want to make sure that you have the support of your significant other. And if it's just you by yourself, there's somebody that's depending on you to succeed in life, and you got to at least reach out to that person. But that leads me back to the first key, which is asking yourself why you want to do it and making sure that the reason is based on logic and not emotions. Next thing you want to do is you want to set up your runway. As I mentioned, you want to make sure that you cut your expenses to the bare minimum, and you stockpile as much cash as possible, either through picking up side hustles, more hours at work, or a combination of the two. Then you want to make sure that you leave that job on great terms. As I mentioned, you don't want to quit cold turkey. I highly recommend that you do not do that, because that's going to set you up for failure, and it sets a bad precedent. I don't believe in karma, but I also know that the way that you exit will leave that will be the lasting impression that employer or the people connected to that employer are going to remember about you. So for me, my reputation is very important to me. So I would highly recommend that you leave on the best terms possible. Again, either by using your vacation time, taking a leave of absence, or when you're ultimately ready to make that leap, making sure that your job has the ability to replace you within a reasonable amount of time. And like I said, usually it's 2 weeks, but if they ask for a month, they're still going to pay you anyway. Leave on the best of terms. And then make sure, lastly, that you are tracking every expense related to your business, because that is how you are going to be able to lower your taxable income as much as possible. If you got value from today's show, let me know in the comments below. what resonated with you the most. And if you enjoy content like this, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It's greatly appreciated. And if you've watched more than one video, it's time to subscribe. So I would appreciate it. We're growing this channel literally from the mud, and every single video, my goal and my objective is to give you actionable, practical nuggets that help you become a better real estate agent, become a better real estate investor, or ultimately a combination of the two. So I'm super excited about that, and I want to thank you for watching today's video. Peace.